Hello, you're watching Tell It Like It Is, and my name is Kathy Benuck. And today we're doing the second part of a show called Who Will Be the Next New Hampshire GOP Chairman? And my guest today is Jennifer Hahn, obviously one of the candidates. Now, on January 26th, the New Hampshire Republican State Committee will be meeting. And probably the biggest thing that will come out of that meeting is the election of a new state chairman of the party. Now, two candidates emerged, and both are actively working to be elected. The first is Jennifer Hahn, who's a longtime Republican activist and a former congressional candidate. And right from the get-go, practically the moment of her announcement, she did receive endorsements from some leading Republicans in New Hampshire, people like Kelly Ayotte and Congressman Frank Inter. And the second candidate is Andrew Hemingway, who's newer to the New Hampshire political scene, but has already been recognized by the media, and I think rightfully could be called a rising star in the political party. Now, a show with Andrew was already taped, and by the time you see this one, maybe you've already seen it. But if you didn't, I hope you'll watch it. I hope you'll watch both of them, because both candidates are very compelling, and both are talented, and both have many, many ideas on how to strengthen the GOP party. Now, Jennifer is very well known in the New Hampshire political scene, both because of her extremely active role within the Republican Party and because of the fact that she did have two candidacies herself for U.S. Congress. In fact, in 2008, she was indeed the Republican nominee for the 2nd Congressional District, and actually was the very first woman in New Hampshire to be nominated by the New Hampshire Republicans for national office. So one of those milestone things. Consequently, she became very well recognized face in the media, and was very frequently seen on such national TV outlets as CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, even the Fox Business Channel. She's had over 20 years of experience in the business world. She worked for a major national insurance provider. She also co-owned her own management consulting firm, and she's been very renowned in the field of professional training. Jennifer hosted her own radio talk show. It was a daily 2-hour show, which is no easy thing to do. And she won 2 Golden Mike Awards for her work on that show, as well as a 2nd place award for a radio documentary special report. And again, that's very competitive, so that's pretty impressive. For 5 years, she had a weekly column in the Sunday Telegraph, and she currently writes a weekly column for New Hampshire Patch, which I hope all of you know is the rapidly growing online news source in New Hampshire. Jennifer's been involved in multiple efforts to support our troops. She's a longtime advocate for breast cancer research and support services. In 2007, she was recognized for over 10 years of work for the Chernobyl, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Children Project USA. And she was the recipient of the Spirit of Hope Award for that. And more locally, she served on the board of directors of Marguerite's Place, the Nashua YMCA, and the Nashua Police Athletic League. In 2011, she was named the Woman of the Year by the Nashua Area Federated Republican Women. Jennifer's a multitasker, to say the least, and she resides in Nashua with her husband, Bill, and one of the reasons I say she's a multitasker is they have 5 kids. So, Jennifer, I'm delighted we were able to get you here on such short notice. And
thank you for having me.
I know you're going 1,000 miles an hour.
Well, that's 20 years worth that you just talked about there. I didn't just do all that last week.
Well, no, but you know, right now you're certainly engaged in something that you're going 1,000 miles an hour.
Always, you know. But you're absolutely right. The campaign for party chairman is well underway, and I've been working very hard along with a big team, a broad spectrum of Republicans who are on board, working hard side by side with me, trying to get things done.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you, the first couple of questions will be basically the same thing I asked Andrew, because I try to keep it fair.
Absolutely.
And then we'll get more into your particular campaign. Now, it's fair to say, it's not a negative thing to say that Republicans did take a drubbing this year.
No question.
In New
Can't
Hampshire.
avoid the obvious.
Right.
Can't avoid the obvious.
We lost the governor's
Right.
race in spite of the fact that we started out with two outstanding candidates, both
Right.
of whom would have made good governors. We lost two great incumbent Republican congressmen, and we obviously had a disappointing loss in the New Hampshire House of Representatives and lost that majority advantage.
Right.
In your opinion, what the heck went wrong?
Yeah. Well, I think some people are still asking that, still scratching their heads a little bit. You know, there isn't any one thing. There is, and that's the most frustrating part. It would be great if you could say this person screwed up or this thing broke down. If there, but that's not how campaigns work, and it's not how politics work. And you know, I think that we could go through a whole long list of areas where we were outperformed. I think probably one of the biggest, most compelling things that went wrong is that we lost control of our own message. And no matter what else happens out there, no matter what you want to talk about technology and get out the vote efforts and all these different things that happen, politics is about crafting and controlling your message. Winning campaigns is about crafting and controlling you know, your message. I think that voters went into the voting booth on election day believing things that were inherently false. And you can't blame the voters for that. We're responsible for our own message. We're responsible for that. But I've said many times, I think that voters walked into the booth on election day believing that Republicans don't care about the elderly, that we don't care about women, that we don't. And to me, that's the most frustrating part that went wrong. Because I look at the Republican Party and I see the party that is the most compelling, articulate voice for contemporary women today, that is the strongest voice for small business owners, for the elderly. And I think the elderly is a great example of the messaging and how important that is. People voted on election day believing that Republicans wanted to take Medicare away from the elderly.
Yes.
When in actuality, Mitt Romney and the Republican Congress are the only ones who offered a plan to preserve Medicare. And the Democrats not only never offered a plan to preserve it, they essentially blew it off. They didn't think it was a big deal. You know, and our message from the beginning should have been save Medicare, vote Republican. The same is true of women. Women left the Republican Party on election day in record numbers.
Oh, in New Hampshire particularly.
In New Hampshire in particular. And yet, women start more small businesses. Women make the majority of consumer purchases. Women make the majority of healthcare decisions. Women are an economic engine, and it is the Republican Party that protects and preserves all of those principles that allow us to grow businesses, to create new jobs, to you know, provide the kind of healthcare choice that every American should have the opportunity to. So the fact that Election Day rolled around and folks did not know who we are as Republicans, that was a major failure, and that's a failure that falls on us. The other side's always going to try to define you. It's your job not to let them. So,
and it was very frustrating.
Absolutely.
You know, watching. I mean, there were times that I'd see a TV ad or then hear a Republican candidate, and my reaction would be, "Why aren't you responding?"
Right. Yes. Well, and that's part of it too. Is just teaching your candidates maybe, or helping your candidates to be more empowered, or that it's all part of it. You know, it's all part of it. Technology is another part of it. We were outmaneuvered on the ground when it comes to contemporary technology. There's no question about it. We did not take advantage of data mining opportunities. We did not take advantage of social media. We did not take advantage of all sorts of new technologies that exist out there. Or maybe the better way to say it is not so much that we didn't take advantage of it, but they were not strategically implemented the way that they need to be. You know, technology is a great thing, but it's a tool. And it's a tool. But it's one of many tools. You know, and a good example is social media. Everybody likes to talk about social media. Well, you can tweet or post 1,000 times a day, but if what you're tweeting and posting does not make some sort of personal connection with a human being and inspire them to become a Republican voter, then it's just a total waste of time. So it's having the strategic and political understanding how to implement all those moving parts, the technology, the social media, traditional media, and having the skills to be able to work with traditional media, messaging, all of those moving parts together to build a successful a successful political machine, a successful political campaign.
And of course, we
So-
did see on the national level that complete failure of the whole Romney
Yes, the
election day
Orca
program. I mean,
system,
that was
the
a
Orca system,
disaster.
right,
And again, I mean, I understand that they hadn't even beta tested it ahead of time, and it's
Well,
like,
I
how
had
could
heard,
that happen?
I had heard the same thing, and it's just another example,
Yeah,
another example. And in my opinion, when I look at this, I say, I almost, it's not that I don't care what they're doing on the national stage, but we should be winning in New Hampshire. Republicans should be winning in New Hampshire, no matter what happens on the national stage, no matter what the national trend is, no matter what they're doing in Washington. We need to build a political Republican Party machine in New Hampshire that wins cycle after cycle after cycle, no matter what's going on out there. And that means that we have to develop and own and maintain our own voter ID database. It's not enough just to have a database filled with people who vote Republican. I want the independents. I want the folks who lean Republican. I want the folks who are not registered. I want to get them registered as Republicans. You know, so we need a much broader, stronger, more accurate database, and we need to own it ourselves in the party, which we haven't done before. We need to really modernize our get out the vote efforts. Everybody's heard the stories about the Obama folks going door to door with iPads while we were going door to door with clipboards and pencils. But again, it's not just having an iPad, it's knowing what to do with it and how to use it strategically to win a campaign.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, I think, unlike the Democratic Party in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Republican Party has been judged by many, I mean both Democrats and Republicans and independents, as being in turmoil because of the fact we've had so many changes in chairmanship in recent years. And, you know, to the public, there appears to be constant infighting or kind of like a dysfunctional family thing going on between party leaders. What do you say to that?
Well, I say a couple of things. First of all, I maintain, regardless of any of it, that the Republican Party is the strongest voice for families, for children, for business owners, for the elderly, for women. We are the strongest, most articulate voice. And when our core principles of limited government, limited spending, low taxes, unlimited opportunity, when those principles are converted into policy, the entire community benefits, regardless of what your political affiliation is, regardless of what financial category you fall into. Everybody is lifted up by that. So it's so important that the Republican Party in New Hampshire rebuild a strong core structure so that we can communicate with our neighbors around the state who we are, what it is we want to do for the state, and then in turn translate that into winning elections. I think that, you know, we do typically, it's not just recent, you know, we typically re-elect new chairmen every 2 years or so. You know, we can go back through the history of our party, and maybe there's some that have served for more than 1 2-year term. But if we have a strong structure built within, then we should be able to transition from leadership and not have, you know, some of the issues that we've faced. So I think our next chairman really has to be qualified and focused on rebuilding that structure that can be self-sustaining. So that, again, so that we're winning elections cycle after cycle after cycle, regardless almost of who the chairman is. As far as the infighting and things like that, you know, I ran 2 very strong challenger campaigns, you know, in the primaries that I ran in. Both times that I ran, I was running against the individual that was perceived to be, whether it's the establishment person or the person whose turn it was, whatever it is. So I am a big proponent of primaries. I understand the mindset and I fully embrace the idea that everybody should have a voice, and anybody who feels like they have something to offer should be part of that process. That everyone has a right to run for office, you know, regardless of Republican or Democrat or anything else. But I think that what we have done in recent years that has been particularly destructive is that rather than focusing our primaries on issues and policies and why am I a better candidate than you, we have in some areas become very personal. And if the one thing we have to do more than anything else that I think is, we can talk about messaging and technology and fundraising and all those things we need to do to succeed as a party. none of it will matter if we continue to spend more time fighting with each other than we do fighting with Democrats. Our goal is to get good, principled Republicans elected to office. That's the purpose of the Republican Party, and that's the responsibility of the Republican Party chairman. And we have to come to a place where we can respect our differences and build strong, successful efforts on those core Republican principles that we all hold in common.
Now, some of these fissures obviously became very public. And I mean, human beings being human beings, fissures can go on for a long time.
Right.
Do you think that at this point in time, all of the players in all of these, inner wars or whatever we want to call them, do you think that they're ready at this point in time to go, whoa, we do have to knock it off, we do have to work together, and we've got to kind of leave all this background once and for all behind us? Are they ready?
It's surprising what a good loss will do to you.
This is true, yeah.
I think it
everybody shared the pain, I guess.
Exactly.
Right?
Nobody feels good about it right now. But I think it kind of goes beyond. I wouldn't call them inner wars, because I really do think that they are disagreements that are based in principle. And I understand that people feel very passionately about, everyone has their own issue that they're so passionate about. But that's why I think we have to build respect for that. We have to, we can have 6 Republicans around the table and have 6 different issues that are the most important issue to each of them. And we have to respect that. I think that one of the great strengths that I bring to the position of chairman is that over the years I've been able to develop very good, productive, respectful working relationships with both activists and party leaders in every arm of the party. And I think that we need that in a chairman, somebody who hasn't been part of the kind of trying to be divisive, and somebody who's been able to build those relationships and can bring that skill and the benefits of that to leadership, to bring it to the table as chairman. And I've tried to show that in this campaign. You talked in the introduction about the support that I have in the campaign, but what I did was went out and reached out to hundreds of people in advance to talk to them about my vision and what I think. Absolutely. And what I thought we could accomplish and what I thought I could bring to the table, and earned their support. And so in that first week, we not only introduced the names of a broad spectrum of Republican leaders, but over 150 grassroots activists as well, all in the, all part of that support and that leadership, that team of support from the beginning. And I think that it's so important that we have a chairman who can do that and bring that to the entire, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, whatever you do as chairman, can bring that kind of unity. We must be unified. We can't win if we think that the goal is to defeat each other, and that brings us to the next step of it all. Is it's our job is not just to be in control of our message and define ourselves, but it's our job to define our opponents. And we've just started a new session under new leadership with Governor Hassan and Speaker Norelli, and folks in the new leadership in Concord have made their agenda very clear. We've got dozens and dozens of bills that we already know are going to be introduced, and they include a statewide 1% income tax. They include giving counties the authority to implement an income tax. I mean, you go down through and you look at what some of the bills are that they've introduced, and we have good reason to be concerned that they're going to revert to their big spending, big government ways. And it's our responsibility as Republicans, it's our responsibility to our neighbors and to our community to hold them accountable to the promises they made in their campaigns, and to make sure that we don't go back to another $900 million deficit, which is what we got the last time we had Democratic leadership.
That's correct. Now, you've never been afraid to give your opinion.
No.
And on controversial issues as well.
And there are many people close to me who wish I wasn't.
I share that pain. But in any event, I mean, you've never been afraid to jump in when you felt you should. And so some people would say, well, Jennifer's a lightning rod. Because, anybody who speaks up in public is somewhat of a lightning rod. Do you think that helps you or hurts you in a race like this?
Well, it depends on what kind of lightning rod that you are. I've always been respectful. I've always been respectful
yeah,
to
you've
my
never been
opponents.
nasty, no.
I've always, I've always been able to keep a sense of humor about myself, and we're confronting some very important issues. And these are
Yes,
issues that they don't just impact you and me and our businesses and our neighbors. They impact the kind of New Hampshire and the kind of America that our children are going to raise their families in. So we cannot be afraid to engage in the conversation. You cannot be afraid to debate. And the job of the chairman is to be that messenger. And so, the idea, a lightning rod, if there's a negativity to that,
no, I
I
don't
don't
mean
think
that as a negative.
Yeah,
I mean
so
it as a positive, actually.
I think that we need somebody who can be a leader. You need someone who can organize, someone who can implement, someone who can get all those moving pieces working, but also somebody who can go toe to toe with Ray Buckley and Kathy Sullivan and Anne McLean Custer and Carol Shea Porter, and as necessary, whatever comes up. You cannot be afraid to step up and tell the truth.
No, you can't be.
And if you're going to be the party chairman, you cannot be afraid to step up and draw bold distinctions between what we stand for as Republicans and what they might be trying to implement as Democrats.
Okay, good answer. What do you think?
I'm a thinker, Kathy.
No, I know you are.
I
know you are. Well, we've talked about what we thought the Republicans did wrong,
Sure.
this year and in this
Sure.
election particularly. But as a staunch Republican, what did they do right?
Well, listen, we do a lot of things right, and I'm so glad you said that because people are still kind of wallowing in the loss. And one of the things
course,
I've been saying,
it's hard to lose.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
And I've lost once or twice. I get that.
Yeah, it's hard
But
to lose.
one of the greatest lessons I learned running campaigns was when in 2008, which everybody calls the Obama wave now, of course. But I ran in the general election against Paul Hodes, and I lost that race. And one of the most important lessons I learned in that race was I sat there on election night waiting to go out to make my remarks to our supporters. And I said, you know what? I gave this 110%. My husband gave it 110%. My kids, my supporters, my staff, every volunteer in the 2nd District gave it everything they had, and we did a good thing. We brought attention to important issues. We were able to articulate and voice things that, on behalf of voters, on behalf of citizens, that they didn't feel like they could articulate themselves. We did a good thing. So at the end of that night, I said, I'm not going to go out there and say, oh, boo-hoo, look at what happened, we lost. We did a good thing. We accomplished good things, and we're going to build on that going forward.
Yeah.
That's what we need to look at here. We had millions of great activists across this country, thousands of them across the state, who came to the Republican effort, who gave it 110%, who gave a voice to, on behalf of their neighbors and other people in their community on important issues, brought to the attention of the greater community issues that are very important. We were able to talk about solutions, and we were able to bring new people into the political effort, which I think is always a good thing. So we accomplished good things, and we have to build on that going forward. We have to identify the positive and build on that moving toward the next election cycle.
Okay. I think you would agree, at least. Maybe.
We'll
hopefully.
see.
Maybe
I'll
not.
tell you for sure if
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
I'm sure you will. Yeah. It would appear that the Democrats did a whole lot better job than the Republicans, not just in New Hampshire, but overall nationwide, at reaching younger voters.
Sure. Sure.
If you're elected chair of the New Hampshire Republican State Committee, that's obviously have to be a big concern of yours.
Yeah.
What do you plan to do to change that, to get into that younger group that obviously is the vote of tomorrow, totally?
Right. Well, and there's no question we have to start talking, find a way. But it's not just younger voters. It's all those groups that we lost. I mean, we lost everybody. We lost young people. We lost minorities. We lost women. We lost the elderly. And the key is that you have to be able to talk to them in a personal manner about the things that they care about. It's not a different formula for different groups of voters. You have to talk to people in a way that is personal and connects with them about the things they care about. Now, with young people, we have to talk to them where they are. They're on social media. They're on campus.
Yes,
they're on, where are they? We've already started to develop a program to implement on the campuses around the state so that we can get our existing Republican efforts onto the campuses and start drawing the students in. With young people, of course, the communication mode has a lot more to do with social media than it does with a piece of mail with a stamp on it. We all understand that as well. But I think one of the issues that we really could have been talking to young people about differently than we did is the debt. because I'm struck by the fact that if you go back and look at the news coverage of college voters or young voters, how many of them would talk to you immediately about the burden of their college debt? They were talking about two things. They'd say, I'm graduating from college, I can't find a job, and I already have $30,000 in debt. Those are the things. Now, that's a Republican voter, if ever I heard one. How did we lose them? What happened there? You know, how can we translate their concern about their $30,000 in debt? How do we get them, if that's very real to them, how can we connect them to the fact that we have $16 trillion in debt that belongs to them? You and I are not going to pay that off. They are.
They'll be long gone.
You know, their children will be. So, you know, there are some obvious disconnects there that we need to overcome. There's no question about it. And I think that as a party, we need to go out of our way to rebuild some of those relationships.
Now, obviously, if you win, I mean, day one, you have to say, okay, here's my priority list, which you probably already have it all done.
Quite a lot, quite a few of them.
I'm sure you do. Well, knowing that 2014, again, is going to be an important year with the elections, again, coming up, that we could stand to lose more seats.
No, we won't be losing more seats in 2014. On the national. No, we will not be losing more seats in 2014.
We want to win some.
I'm not having that conversation.
No, all right. Well, we want to win some.
We're here to win. We're here to win.
Yes. So knowing that, what do you see really as the single most important thing that you've got to concentrate on? You
know, I understand the question, where the question comes from, but I think that if we
I understand you're going to have 25 different things that are
but the
important.
thing is, if you decide that there's one thing that is the single most important thing, then you can't win. You can't win.
Well,
so
you're right.
you know, because one of the things we haven't talked about is fundraising. We need to modernize our technology. We need a fully staffed professional office. You know, we need to be fully in control of our own message.
Now,
but
we're
all
totally
of that,
to the detriment of the Democratic Party in New Hampshire, correct? In terms of
part of
our
fundraising.
staffing.
Oh yeah, our staffing as well,
Okay.
exactly. We try to make do with 2 people in the office, and they're year-round. They've got 6 or 7 folks running it. But none of that can happen. It doesn't matter, you know, how clever you are at any one of those areas. If you don't have the money to fund it, it's not going to happen. So, you know, if there were, you know, my top priorities, it's got to be fundraising so that you can support everything else. Part of every day has to be spent raising money. I've spent a lot of time already, you know, coming up with a plan of how are we going to do that? Who are the folks that you bring in to support that? You know, what's the most dynamic finance committee we can put together? How can our connections and our delegate in Washington help with that on a national level? Regional fundraising, online fundraising, social media fundraising. There's all different pieces to that. But once we know that we have the funds coming in, we need a fully staffed office. You can't win an election by bringing 2 or 3 extra people in August and the elections in November.
A few weeks later.
So we need that. We need good, strong, aggressive, professional operatives in that office. We need a cohesive, unified message. You know, we need to build those relationships between all the different arms of the Republican Party that speak publicly, so that we're in a unified, cohesive, strong message. You know, those are all part of it. It's all part of it. We have to be, as we said earlier, we've got to be bringing in young people. We've got to be talking to the elderly. We've got to be talking to business owners. You know, you said earlier, how do we bring young people into the party? Well, young people aren't just students. You know, young people are 25-year-olds that are starting their own businesses, or they're 28-year-olds that are starting a family and they're buying their first home. So there are so many issues that we can be talking about. You know, think about all those single moms out there that are raising 2 or 3 kids and they're working 2 jobs so that they can buy milk. You know, these are the connections that we need to be able to make. So none of those issues are a priority. None of those tasks, whether it's technology or message or anything, none of them are a priority by themselves. The priority is to make that personal connection with our neighbors across the state and inspire them to be Republican voters. That's what we have to do. All those other pieces are just tools that we use to do that.
Now, you obviously believe in unity and cohesiveness and working together, the whole 9 yards. And if
we can't win if we don't.
No, true.
We can't win if we don't.
And if you're to win, do you see a place for your opponent in this particular race moving ahead to,
Oh, of
to
course.
work, with your
Of
team
course.
and such.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We can't win without each other, and that's not me and my opponent. It's the entire party. We all need to be part of this, and I think that anybody who's running for this race is somebody who clearly cares deeply about Republican success.
Well, you'd have to
and
think so,
cares about-
because
right.
it's a lot of work to run for something.
Listen,
yeah.
you're giving it your all. You're giving it 100%, and so there's a place for every principled, caring Republican. There's a place for them. There's no question about it. And all I mean by that is, anybody who looks at our platform and embraces those core principles: limited government, low taxes, low spending, unlimited opportunity. That's always been the guiding force for our party. It's always been the guiding force for me. So let's bring all those people to the table and talk about other issues that are important to us, talk about other issues where we might have differences, and then let's come together and build winning campaigns.
Now, in a couple of weeks, obviously, some 500 people will be actually right here in Bedford at
That's
Bedford
right,
High
that's
School
right.
for the Republican annual meeting. And I'm assuming that everybody who's running for all the different offices will get up and do a couple of minutes pitch to the audience.
I assume.
I would think,
yeah.
for that last minute campaigning, so to
Right.
speak. And, when it became your turn, if they only give you 1 minute or 2 minutes or whatever, 2 minutes, and said to you, okay, here's the challenge to all of you candidates. Tell us what is the single most important reason why we should vote for you. What would you say?
Right. Because I can passionately and with clarity, although it doesn't sound like it at the moment, does it? Because with,
I
with
do this all the
passion
time, don't
and-
worry.
it is with passion and clarity, I can articulate the Republican message in a way that will connect with real people and inspire them to become Republican voters. And that's what this is all about. I embrace the platform. I recognize why it is good, why it is right, and I'm able to not only defend it, but articulate it to the various groups of voters. And then, as I said earlier, all those other pieces that fall in underneath that are just tools that we use to connect with individuals on a personal basis and inspire them to become Republican voters. If we don't remember that this position is about winning elections, about getting Republicans elected, then we aren't going to make the best choice. The chairman's responsibility is to make sure that we get Republicans into office. And we have to remember why we do that. Because in our heart of hearts, we believe that the Republican principles and values that we all hold so dear are what is best for the community. Because we want to do good things for our neighbors. We want to have a strong, vibrant, thriving economy in our state. We want our neighbors across the state to have as economically prosperous a life as possible. We want good things for everyone. That's why we're Republicans. That's why we embrace those core values. So now we have to have a leader who will be able to start making those personal connections with individuals and inspire them to become Republican voters. I'll say it over and over again.
Oh, wow, that's the message you want to get across. Now, if somebody wants to contact you, do you welcome their emails to your email address?
Of course I do. Jennifer for GOP Chair
And we
at
will put it up on the screen.
gmail.com. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll go one better for you. I'll tell them right here on TV what my cell phone number is.
All right.
Over the
We'll
past
put that
5
on
or-
the screen, too.
Over the past 5 or 6 years, I think I've given it to 90% of the people who live in the state of New Hampshire. It's 603-440-3070.
All right, we will put that up.
I'm also on Facebook at Jennifer Horn for GOP Chair. And folks are welcome to meet us there. I'm on Twitter. You can't miss me. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who feel like they'd like to.
Well, we'll
I'm
make sure
everywhere.
all that stuff
So,
is up on the screen.
absolutely, sure.
And of course, if anybody would miss it, they can always get in touch with me and say, "What was that?"
Terrific, terrific.
Now, we only have literally about 3 or 4 minutes left.
Okay.
And you know where you want to go in this, and you know what your big issues are. So what I would like to do is to hand it right over to you and let you look at the camera and get out
Sure.
now whatever that message is that you want to leave people with before we end the show.
And we've already been able to talk about so much of it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And it is all about we're looking at the fact that we lost, why did we lose, and what do we need to do differently moving forward to win? Because in the end of all of this, it's about making sure that Republicans win. It is those core values of limited government, limited taxes, low spending that leads to unlimited opportunity for our children, for future generations. That's why it's so important that we have leadership in our state and in our nation that is based on Republican values. So I'm running for chairman because I believe that I have the skills, the vision, the experience to bring the type of leadership we need to articulate that message, to make the personal connection with our neighbors across the state, to inspire them to become Republican voters. There's so much we need to do. We need to modernize our technology. We need to better strategically use and implement social media. We need to raise a lot more money than we've raised so far, that we've raised for past election cycles. We need a fully staffed, fully funded professional staff at the state office. But in the end, it's about the message. It's about who we are and making sure our neighbors know who we are and come to respect and trust us and be willing to put their faith in us on Election Day. That's why I'm running. That's why I'm asking all of the 506 members of the state committee to cast their vote for me on January 26th.
Good job. You know how to do it.
Okay, I'm happy to be here.
Well,
I really
am very
appreciate the
pleased we were able
opportunity.
to get you down.
Thank you.
And of course, best of luck.
Thank you very
We'll see in a
much.
couple of weeks. Everybody, I think, in the state is following this, whether they're
Ready to
Republicans
go.
or Democrats.
We're ready to go. We're ready to win.
Well, that's great. And as I said, best of luck. And I'm sure
Thank
one
you.
way or another, I'm going to see you here, there, and everywhere.
Terrific. I look
All right.
forward to it. We'll do this again.
And if you win, when you win, I'm sure you'd rather have me say,
Yeah.
will you come back? Will you be a
Of
regular
course.
visitor and keep us
Absolutely.
informed of
It's
what's
all
going
about,
on?
It's all about communicating with our neighbors across the state. This is part of it.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you,
right.
Kathy.
Thank you again.
Terrific.
Okay, well, as you heard, Jennifer is not shrinking violet by any stretch of the imagination, and certainly knows how to put forth her ideas and express herself in ways that any listener can understand. Communication obviously is a huge skill of hers. So I enjoyed having her because with the show named Tell It Like It Is, there's nothing we love more than people who can come in and be a guest and tell it like it is. And we want you to keep doing that too. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.